Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I was just getting ready for the stream. Teed, would love you to do an idiot's guide to weathering and scratches, regardless of colour scheme. Not sure if that's possible, but you've taken my painting to another level. Thought I'd be able, that you'd never thought you'd be able to do. Yeah, I do want to do a weathering. I want to do like an effects tutorial where I cover like object source lighting, maybe some weathering, chipping, creating textures. That is on the that's on the list this year. You're probably looking May time, end of May. I'll probably do a video, something like that. But I want to work on just do a bit of practice until then. Hello everyone. Let's see who we've got. Finn, you second the weathering video, and Gary Burke does as well. See ya. Pretty grim weather here in the UK. Yeah, it's absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. George Wright, hello. See ya, it's like someone took the map of the world, grabbed the UK and done grimdark on it. Yeah. I hope we've got a nice summer on its way this year. Webb, howdy all. Ryan Scale Model World, hello. Chris, yes to a video on weathering. Al Haggis, afternoon. See ya, actually, I'd like to ask where you got your paint racks from. I'm in need of a few. So anything you see me using in my videos, like paint racks and such, everything's always linked in the description of the videos with links to where you can get them, which are affiliate links. So if anyone is ever thinking of purchasing the model they see in the tutorial or the equipment that I use in the video, there's affiliate links to everything in the description, which basically means I earn a bit of a commission when you buy through those links, so it does help support the channel, and it doesn't cost you anything extra if you do that either. So the company I'll link, the companies I'll link for those are Fireforge, which are a pretty good company. I think they do ship worldwide, and they obviously do like a discount on the Games Workshop products. But you've also mostly got Amazon links in there. So like the wet palette, the racks, the lamp that I use, all those stuff, it's all linked in the descriptions. Nathan, morning everyone from everywhere. Webb, I was going to ask the same. I've only started in October, but it's already gotten a little bit beyond. Yeah, those racks are actually nail varnish racks. And you can get different sizes. I've seen some, so mine are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tiered, and you can get like 3 tiered, etc., or even bigger. Gary Burke, evening. Finn, anyone heading to the Beachhead Expo this year? I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to have a look. Beachhead. There's a few things that I wouldn't mind seeing. Going to this year. I tend to, if I go somewhere, it tends to be the Games Expo in Birmingham, just because I'm close by. But obviously that's not, I don't think Warhammer's been there, like Games Workshop hasn't been there for the past couple of years. I know they were there before lockdown, but they haven't been back since. Valco, did it happen that you were missing a piece in a kit? Not recently. Not recently. I'm sure it's happened in the past, but I can't remember any specifics. Ballistic, hello. Welcome to the stream. Good to see ya. Finn, they've got a Tabletop Expo down in Bournemouth. Looks really good. Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting out to a few events this year. Marek, hello. So tonight, you've obviously seen the thumbnail, but we're going to be looking at applying some transfers tonight. Just because I haven't really got anything I want to. I've been painting all week. I wasn't really in the mindset to do some more painting this evening. And one of the things I've always wanted to do is to show sort of like an updated version of how I do transfers, because the first video on my channel was a transfer video, but obviously I do things a little bit differently, not too differently, but it's still pretty much the same. Nathan, my son wants me to let you know he's painting his first mini, age 7, and he's super excited. I'm super excited. Good luck. What are you painting? I'd love to see it once you're done. You can send a picture of it to me at my email address. I hope you enjoy painting it. Evan Thompson, will you be doing tutorials on the new Eldar kits? What about the craft world? I'd love to see one of the Yggdrasil craft world colour schemes. I do have a craft world tutorial up at the minute, but it covers the 5 main ones. So Samhain, Beltan, Iandan, Orthway, and Elatok. At the minute, my focus is I'm doing some Age of Sigmar videos just to sort of spread the content out on the channel. But the Aspect Warriors are on my radar to do. And it may be the actual Aspect Warriors, or it may be a Phoenix Lord. I definitely want to do Azaman. He's my favourite Phoenix Lord, but I kind of want him. I want to do a retro scheme for him, in the same vein as the Abaddon video I did. Sia, good on him. Nathan, my kids are 12 and 14 and are Warhammer freaks now. Webb, transfers, good timing. Just about to put some on my Dreadnought. Nathan says he's painting Skeleton Bowman from a Learning to Paint kit. It's a good place to start, actually. Learn about washes and dry brushing and stuff. Really good. Mario, just got to the new Krieg box set. Do you have any tips or videos on how to paint them? I do have a infantry tutorial for Krieg. It's quite an old one. It's a couple of years old now, but it's still relevant. It's still the Games Workshop scheme. I'm probably not going to get around to doing any more Krieg tutorials anytime soon, just from what I've got planned for the channel already. So I've painted these. So update on my Imperial Fists. I haven't done a lot because I haven't had time, because I've been working on the next couple of videos. But I still have these, and I've been wanting to put the transfers on them. So I've got my Imperial Fist. So I did a live stream about a month ago now, starting these and talking about these. So I'm going to be doing some transfers today and talking about how we do that. Update on the actual army so far. So as you know, well, hopefully you know, I built the Chaplain and Tor Garridan. And they're built and sub-assembled, and they're undercoated now, ready to be painted when I get a chance. But I'm working on the Terminators at the minute. So this week I spent a couple of hours just finishing the base colours and just tidying everything up. So this is just the Imperial Fist contrast method with the thin down Cassandora yellow wash over it. And then, so it is mainly just using contrasts and silver and the iron hands and Retributor armor for the metals. And then here's the head. So the head's done, it is highlighted, but obviously It's tough to see. It's quite like so I made my mix for the head to get like a Fenrisian grey type colour, but it's Pilot Glacier and Briar Queen Chill, so that's a 50-50 mix. But then that mix is then had a 50, like it's an equal amount of Lamy medium added to it to thin it down. So obviously you don't want to like overpower the white, and then it's just highlighted white. So that's where I am. I'm probably not going to get a chance. I might get a chance to do some highlighting next weekend, because it's only highlights now really, and these are done. And I'm only doing edge highlights for these guys. Ooga, thank you very much for subscribing. Calvis, thank you very much for subscribing. And Buckinghamshire Maine Coon George, welcome to the channel, everyone, if you're here. Hal Haggis spent a small fortune on some paints and shades yesterday. Went in for a couple of things I had run out of and left it with about 15 pots. Yeah, it always seems to come in waves when it comes to painting. When it comes to paints, you won't need a paint for about 6 months, and then you need about 10 or 20 of them. Nathan painting Von Ryan's Leapers while he paints his. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some more Tyranids for myself. I think there might be a project for the end of the year, because obviously I've got the Tyranids that I painted for the videos already, and then I recently, with the Space Marines, I bought this like the £70 starter box where you get the Tyranids and Space Marines. So I've got another load of Tyranids to add to what I've already got, and I do want to do the Norn Emissary this year as well. And I'm thinking about doing a hive, like a Hive Fleet colour scheme video where it just covers different colour schemes. So those will be 2 videos I do together. Scott Parks, I want to start collecting. Do you recommend Citadel brushes or something cheap while I discover what I like? Citadel brushes, to be honest, are probably in about the range cost price for low-end brushes, believe it or not. You're going to be spending about £4 or £5 on a brush that's usable for painting miniatures. If you're in the UK, there's a company called Expo Tools that I do talk about. But I'm going to say now, I'm no expert on brushes, and I'm not aware of all the companies that are out there. And I know I've seen like a lot of people like on YouTube and social media promoting a lot of different brands, and they all seem to be coming out of nowhere. So just have a look around, I suppose. But you want to be spending about £3 to £5 on a brush, because they'll tend to last about 3 months. Archer, thank you so much for this super chat. I really hope it's reading it out. I can't hear the stream, but it should be reading it out. I really enjoyed the way you painted your Ultramarines, watched a lot of your videos, and also learned a lot. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't actually get bored of painting Ultramarines, and I've got a nice little army now. I've still got the blade. I've still got a 2 tutorial I want to do on the blade guard, and I want to do the transport vehicle for them. I can't remember the name. All the names are so similar. So that's at least 2 videos that I want to do, and Gollum and yeah, Robute Gulliman, I kind of want to do along with the Lion. John Smith, new subscriber. I've been painting for 3 months, changed the painting sub-assemblies after watching one of your videos. Major improvement, thanks. Well, welcome, I'm glad you joined us. I'm always happy to get new subscribers. But I'm glad you're here. Thank you very much. Yeah, I try in my videos, I try not to hide anything from people. And if I do show anything, I always try and explain it. Or lead you to a place where I have. So sub-assemblies for me was quite a revolution as well. Because it's not an obvious thing to sort of figure out. And it can be quite an intimidating thing to do. To leave a miniature that really you're supposed to fully build. To leave parts separate. LZ, hello, welcome to the stream. Good evening, everyone. Marek, what chem you use to remove paint from minis? To be honest, I try and avoid stripping miniatures, so I haven't really got any recommendations for that. So if anyone has in the chat, feel free to let us know what you might recommend. I know there's a lot of strippers out there now. Well, you know what I mean. Like paint strippers. Just make sure it only strips the paint and it doesn't affect the plastic. I know Mr. Hobby Thinners is a really good paint thinner, but it is an enamel. So anything like enamel based I would have thought would strip acrylic paint quite well. But I know Mr. Hobby Thinner is quite good at it because you can literally just brush it on and it'll remove paint. Or isopropanol, I think it's called. Scott Parks, I decided I want to collect ultramarines for watching your beginner videos. I'm glad. Yeah, ultramarines, like back when I started in the hobby, ultramarines were like the chapter to make fun of, but I think they're great. Ryan Scale Model World, ultramarines are my favourite faction. Yeah, they're probably my second favourite after ultramarine Imperial Fists. See, I haven't tried it yet, but I bought some green stuff world paint remover to do one figure. Perhaps might work White Spirit. Yeah, I've used White Spirit, and you just need to be careful because it smells. But I know Mr. Hobby Thinner doesn't smell, and that's probably the best product I've seen so far. And generally, I think Mr. Hobby Thinner now you can pretty much get at any hobby store. Chris, do you have advice on magnetizing? Yeah, if you go to in the link as well, I was saying earlier, I've got affiliate links. I think one of the links is to the little round magnets. Generally, I think the only size you can tend to get most of is a 5mm by 2mm width, like depth magnet. And they aren't super strong, but you don't want super strong magnets because you want to be able to pull away from whatever you're sticking them to without too much force. But generally, I don't magnetize. I only magnetize bases so I can transport them. And I tend to fit magnets in place with super glue. I'm sure there's people who on the internet who know more than I do about magnets, but generally you're looking at a 5mm by 2mm size circular magnet for general use, and I know you can get bigger ones. Hal Haggis, honestly 99% ISO propanol is the best, cheap and can be used for many things. Yeah, that's basic. I think that's basically what Mr. Hobby Thinner is. Ballistic, I use 95% isopropyl alcohol and cheap ultrasound machine. I've wanted to try one of those ultrasound machine cleaners as well. I think you can get them quite cheap now. Scott Parks, do I have a Discord or anything? There is a Discord, but the Discord is open to people who support me on Patreon and become a member on YouTube. So with Patreon, I think the lowest tier is £2 a month, and you get access to the Discord. So when you sign up, you'll get an email with the invite link. But otherwise, I just want to keep it like a small sort of space, just to make it easier to manage. And I think it's a good perk to have for people who want to support the channel. By Perez free. Oh. Yeah, so transfers. So this is like one of the newer transfer sheets. And Games Workshop are really good with their transfers at the minute. I'm not sure what company they use. They're really good at the minute. So this is the transfer sheet that you get in the 40k starter boxes at the minute, and you get, let's hold it the right way around. So you get the Ultramarines at the top, the Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Raven Guard, and Imperial Fists. There we go, I think that's sorted. And what I'm going to be using, I did want to use Tamiya products. Vic, your question did appear, only just though. I'll read it in a sec. I did try and get hold of the Tamiya decal softener, but it wasn't going to get here in time. So I'm going to be sticking with the Microset and Microsol. I'm really, this is enough, to be honest. There really isn't that much different in these. This does have a setting agent in it, so it keeps the transfers in place, and this is more of this is a stronger solution that will soften the transfers. But I have gotten away with just using this in the past, and I will only use this if I really need to. Then obviously just something to cut it up. Lucrative, thank you so much for the super chat. Love your videos, thank you. I really appreciate it. I love making the tutorials. I couldn't think of anything better to do with my time. And I love hearing from everybody in the comments and chats and everything, how it's helped them. It really like lifts my mood when I'm in a bad mood, or it just cheers me up and keeps me motivated. So thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. This is quite old now, so this is hard coats. This is a gloss varnish, and then we've got a matte varnish. Now you don't need to use the Citadel products, obviously, but a gloss varnish and a matte varnish is usually needed. with these, you're probably talking about £5 a bottle. And I can tell you, like, that's probably got 2/5 left, so just under half in that bottle. And I've had this for a good 3 years already now. And this I actually bought this week because I'd almost run out, and the only reason I was running out of this is because I spilt it. But otherwise, these will probably last you good. Now I do transfers a lot, and you're probably looking at maybe 5 years. And for a £5 investment, and people go, oh, £5 is a lot of money, but for how much you actually get, you don't need a lot. So they are a good investment to do transfers. They're not 100% necessary, but they do make a massive difference. Vic, hi Chief, your vids have been so helpful. Quick question about contrast paints. I keep getting a mottled effect appear once dried. Is this because I need to apply in one go? Smooth brush, in one go, smooth. So, yeah, I know what you mean. So because the way contrast paints work is because they've got different size pigment in them, and that's how they sort of, you get that they settle in the recesses, and then you'll get them less on the edges. It's just how they're made. But you're not really gonna avoid that. So if you ever watch one of my videos, what I always kind of suggest doing is just doing a second coat of it, because I always feel like one application with contrast paint is never really enough. And you can actually get fancy with the contrast paints as well, because you don't have to apply the same color twice. You can try a different color as well. So I think in my ultramarines, how to paint it 3 different ways. I do a contrast ultramarine in that, and I do use ultramarine contrast paint. But I think I use Azure Blue as well, I'm pretty sure, or Celestium Blue. But I think it might be that, Azure Blue, to give a richer, deeper colour. But yeah, you're not really going to avoid it, especially on flat areas, because they are made more for a lot of detail and sort of surface texture. So you'd have to like apply it a second time, and you're still then not going to get it 100%. Ballistic said you tried nail polish remover without acetone, but it melted the plastic. Yeah, nail polish remover is gonna, because the nails are plastic as well, really, it's gonna dissolve the glue. Why are transfer sheets so expensive? I'm not sure, to be honest. You buy a kit, and if you likely to need transfers for that kit, you're gonna get a transfer sheet in there anyway. But you can obviously buy transfer sheets separate, but they're expensive because they come with the plastic sprues, like the upgrade sprues. But I'm sure if you go onto eBay, there's going to be loads of transfer sheets around, because nobody actually likes to use them. So you should be able to get them pretty cheap, unless they're like tailor-made for transfer sheets that may not exist in the market. So like on Pinterest or Etsy, for example. Lucrative, your videos helped me a lot learning how to paint minis. I'm really glad, thank you for letting me know. As I say, I really do enjoy making these. I really enjoy making them. Ryan, Does it matter what ranks you put on them? Decals. Well, if you want to get, if you want to be one of those, like personally, if you want to like keep to the lore and how say like a chapter is built up, you'll get different markings. So you get like troops, assault, heavy. I think it's changed slightly now, but these kind of markings here, they're sort of elites, so they'll go on your Terminators. These here are your sort of your flamers. Can't remember what, I think these are like close assault troops. But yeah, you do get different ones, and then obviously you get the squad markings for like the numbers. So I would have a look at how a chapter's built up. Julmon, hey, hello, welcome to the stream. Ryan, your airbrush regulator broke, ordered a new one. You can get airbrush regulators quite cheap. I think mine was only about £80 and it's still good. I think I've had mine about 5 years now. And it doesn't look like it's going to be a bother anytime soon. George, how should I use primer more cheap and effectively? One thing you can actually do with the primer, it doesn't need to be, you don't need like a perfect covering with your primer. As long as you get like a relatively good coverage, like if it's not getting into the nooks and crannies, it's not the end of the world. You can actually just go in there with a base colour like I do in my videos and just finish it off, because you're going to be painting your base colours anyway. You just need to have a good sort of starting layer, and there's definitely cheaper options out there for spray cans. And again, I think there's brush on primers. I think Vallejo do them, I think MIG do them. So if you didn't want to do spray cans, you can have a look at brush on primers. Archer, any particular varnish you can recommend to protect a painted mini? I don't recommend varnishing your miniatures, especially if you spent a long time painting them, because a varnish can affect the finish of the paint. Obviously, if it's a gloss, you're gonna lose a lot of that those subtle colours. So varnishes are only used to protect paint when it comes to, say, they're used a lot in the scale model world to protect like layers against like enamel weathering and etc. It's not really there to protect paint from general use, because these are like plastic miniatures and you put undercoat on them, and the paint dries pretty well, so they're quite durable anyway, and you can drop them and mess around with them and you won't see any scratches or any sort of marks or anything like that. So varnish isn't really needed, because you might have had to in the past, especially if they're like metal miniatures. But if you're doing like current Warhammer ranges, then it's just going to be plastic, so they're not needed. Julman wanted to say huge thanks for your guides. Your Deathwing Knight guide helped me complete one of my first models ever. And some of your Orc and Necron guides have also helped my 2 kids get going. I'm really glad. I've got so many tutorials on the channel now. It kind of took me by surprise. I was just looking through them. I think I've been doing the channel nearly 4 years now. Coming up in March, I'll be doing it 4 years. It's a lot of tutorials, but the channel's growing. I'm really excited, and it's good that people are getting used to the videos. Diego, are we going to have Emperor's Children tutorial? Been researching different techniques to paint corrupted flesh to prepare myself for them. Yes, I do want to do Emperor's Children. I'm very tempted to get the launch box when it goes up for pre-order. I won't be able to get a tutorial up like the weekend that it's available because it'll take a couple of weeks from when I get the box, but it's very likely that I'm going to have some Emperor's Children tutorials for everybody because I really love how they're painted, and I think it's going to be a really good challenge for the channel. Vic, yeah. The contrast, you get in your box, you always get spare parts, so put them to good use, practice with them, so you're not going straight to your finished by the actual miniature that you want to paint. Just mount them on blocks like this, or keep them on the sprue and get them undercoated with the main miniature, and then try out your contrast paints, try out practicing highlighting. You can use them to warm up, so don't just like throw them away, then practice on them. Eric the Gorper, hello. Does Citadel sell their acrylics in the droppers? I really do not like the pots. They don't. And I don't recommend transfer them into the dropper pots either. There are alternative paint ranges that do dropper bottles. And if you wanted, you can always use conversion charts to sort of compare what colours you would use with these different ranges if you didn't want to use the Citadel paints. Nathan, when you're touching up spots, do you do it as you go or at once? You rock, keep up the great work. So you can do either. I'll be back. Oh. We will get to doing some transfers in a minute, but we'll just spend another 5 minutes or so. So at the minute I'm working on the beginner Stormcast video. At the minute I'm actually at the stage of just cleaning up the miniatures. So what I'll do is you get all your base colours done first and then tidy up. Because if you do it as you go along, you're going to keep going back and forth all the time. So I tend to do all the base colours together first. Because another way you can work is, you can say do the gold. So you can paint the gold, shade the gold, highlight the gold. But I find that later on, if you do need to tidy up, you're going to have to tidy up your highlights and shading as well. So that's why I preach to do all your base colours first. Just so you can have that time to clean up before you start doing the more skilled stuff like shading and highlighting, because painting your base colours is actually what takes the longest to do. So I've spent 2 days doing the base colours on the Stormcast side of the starter box, but it's all down to you how you want to work. That's just sort of best practice, and in my head the best way to do it. Scott, sorry with the boring beginner questions. No question is boring. We're all learning, and it keeps me on my toes. It helps me keep the basics in my head, don't worry. Would you recommend a beginner box with ultramarines and tyranids, or if I'm just looking to collect ultramarines, a box of paints and 3 minis? If anyone is buying Space Marines or the Tyranids, I would always go for that box because it's the best value for money. I bought that box recently because I'm doing Imperial Fists, and it's what, £68 about, and you get pretty much two combat patrols in there, which are both £90 each. And if you need paints, I'll get the paints and tools set that I use in the starting your painting your first mini to paint them. And with those two, you can get started and with really easily. But that box is a must, really, if you're collecting Space Marines or Tyranids or just getting started. But if you're just looking to try out the hobby before you invest, then watch my painting your first videos tutorial, because I suggest buying the magazine with the 2 free miniatures and the paints and tools, and then if you enjoy doing it, then you can sort of invest in that starter box, because you'll already have the paints and tools ready to go. George, people often sell the Tyranid Space Marine half for the starter box on eBay. That might be good for you. That's also a good thing to do, but I'll just keep them, to be honest, because you never know, you might, once you've done your Space Marines, you might want to paint something different. Ryan also makes, you also like the Napoleonics and World War II, the bolt action miniatures. Yeah, there's been like a 3rd edition bolt action recently come out. Those, I quite like those miniatures, to be fair. I'm not really into that sort of historic gaming though, myself personally, but a lot of my friends are. Rene, should I slap chop my orcs? I'm not a huge fan of slap chop, I'm going to be honest. You're asking the wrong person, because I would say no. If you just want to get miniatures painted, it's a good thing, but if you want to learn to paint, then slap chop isn't the avenue. But I've got loads of orc tutorials on my channel, including how to paint them quite quickly with getting your base colours done, some washes and dry brushes. You'll learn how to paint. It's just that slap chop, it tends to sort of restrict you in what and how you paint. Right, let's get started. So obviously the first thing you're always going to do with transfers is cut them out. I do recommend using scissors rather than a knife. Just because it's a bit more accurate. And when you use scissors, you don't affect the backing too much. Because if you cut, you can actually like warp the paper a bit, and it can sort of make it difficult for the transfers to slide around. And there are loads of different designs, so just use what you kind of like, really. It's personal choice. I'm just going to use the bog standard sort of Randall, I suppose they're called. Randall. I would always like separate the transfers you want to use from the transfer sheet as well, obviously, to stop you affecting the other transfers on the sheet. Let's get these, because we can talk about, because you can double up your transfers as well. Tell you what, let's get to these. Five. And then you tend to want obviously the same number for the squad. We'll go for 3. 3 is always a fun number. So you can go crazy if you want. You can put like, there's loads of text on here and We've got loads for the transfers, just whatever, because you can get like campaign badges as well. So if there's a specific sort of campaign that your force might be on, lore-wise, they tend to have the same, like a campaign badge shared across your collection. George, right, Gloomspite Git's Army box set preview just dropped. I will go and watch that after the stream because that's a box I actually really want to get. With the, is that with the Wolf Riders, Goblin Wolf Riders? Lucrative, a new painter was asking me some questions at my local Games Workshop store and recommended he watch your channel for some guides. Well, I really appreciate that, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Connor, going Warhammer World next month. Have you ever been? Sorry, it's not off topic. Yeah, I love going to Warhammer World. I have not been in a couple of years. I'm definitely going to try and go in the next few weeks for the schools break up for summer. I've just got some water here. It's up to you. You can dip them in the water or you can just soak them. Just make sure you get the front and back. I usually just do like a puddle of water. But yeah, just make sure the back is soaked. You don't need loads. And then just leave them. Don't leave them floating around in the water though, because obviously the transfer come away from the back in and you won't be able to grab it. So I'll tend to put water down here, because the other thing we need to do is what I forgot. So the surface of a miniature when you're painting isn't always flat. And it might have like pot marks or other sort of marks and stuff. So it's always good to put like a coat, like a varnish. This is when I would suggest doing a varnish to give something, to give the transfer something to sit on. And for that I use matte varnish. No, gloss varnish. Gloss varnish. So Games Workshop call it, I don't know, this is an old pot. But they call it hard coat. And I would always thin your varnish. If it's used out of a pot, thin it down like 50-50 like you would a paint. You don't need a lot on there, you just need like a nice even layer. And just make sure you cover sort of like the whole area that the transfers go in. So obviously we're going to be doing these, so I'll do that whole pad. You don't need to do the trim, just do the sort of inner pad. And that's because you want the same finish around the area. If you just do it where you think the transfer is going to be, it's going to be noticeable once you finish the miniature, because you'll get a different finish in that area. Renee, thank you very much for subscribing. If anyone's subscribed and I've missed them, I do apologise, but welcome to the channel. If you're watching the stream, thank you. So we've got the Beefy Boys, Archer, Victor, Lucrative, Costas, Senpai. And if you didn't know the difference between the varnishes, you've got a gloss varnish, you've got a satin varnish, and you've got a matte varnish. And it's all to do with how light sort of reflects off that surface. So a gloss varnish is very flat, believe it or not. Like there's no sort of texture in the varnish itself, and that's why you get a glossy surface. It's like ice, like if you see ice. And then obviously the more texture in the surface, the light's going to be bounced around a lot more, so it's not going to be as uniform, and that's how you get more of a matte finish. How they achieve that effect, I don't know, but that's what I've learned is generally what the varnishes do. So the varnish itself, they're all the same, it's just how light is refracted off the surface that makes a difference. But they all do the same thing. And gloss varnish is good for transfers, obviously, because it's a really flat surface. There's no sort of bumps, and you want the transfer to sit flat. So that's why gloss varnish is used for the under the transfers. So that's why, let's say you're doing some weathering with enamels or something like that. If you use a gloss varnish, those, say like if you use like an enamel wash, or if you've seen someone do like a pin wash, you'll see that pin wash flow really easily with a gloss varnish, because again it's like ice, it's a really flat surface, there's nothing restricting its movement. Whereas if you used a matte varnish, you'll find that the, say like that pin wash won't go as far, because it's so like bumpy, there's friction. And I hope I'm making sense. Yeah. Warhammer World is in Nottingham, or just on the outskirts, in the business park, in Linton, I think it's called. It's very good. It's worth, especially the miniatures hall. I think you pay about £10, and you can go in the miniatures hall, and you'll get to see all the miniatures that you see on the boxes. And when you look at it, you'll be amazed at actually the quality of the miniatures painted there, and you can see why some of the greatest painters in the world work for Games Workshop. I would go and look at the Gits box, but it's just a bit awkward to go do a... I'm not set up to do a screen share. Ballistic, I wouldn't know. I don't know when miniatures are coming out, to be honest. I know, I just keep an eye on the announcements on the Sunday. That's when I know. I didn't think the Aspect Warriors are going to be available this soon. I thought they were going to come after the Krieg, but the Emperor's Children. But I know they were announced a while ago. I want some fire dragons and scorpions. Right, so they're all done. We're going to have to reactivate the transfers because I forgot to do them. So we'll let that... So the gloss varnish should probably take a couple of minutes to dry. Oh. So I'm just having a look at the chat, see where I finished off. Eric, I did a little kit bashing last week along with sculpting putty and made a decent looking Legion of the Damned Space Marine. Well done. I did I did try doing green stuff when I was younger. It's not really much of as much of a thing now. I think if I spent enough time with it, I could have gotten the hang with it, but it's definitely a skill. So well done. Vic, Infernus box set is also good because of snap fix style if not used to building. If you're not used to building, not sure if that bigger box has the same joining method. Yeah, so the starter boxes are the push fit miniatures. So the Terminators, you get the Terminators. You get these Infernus Marines, and you get a Space Marine Captain. And they're all push fit. Same with the Tyranids that you get in there. Lucrative. Oh my gosh, Telemans are in the stock for the United States. Haven't seen that in forever. Richard Gibson. Hi Michael, getting back into 40k after many years away, and your videos have been spot on for painting tips. Thank you. Quick question, how do you mount your disassembled miniatures for painting? Got one over here. I do have a video. It's called Getting Your Miniatures Ready for Painting. I sort of talk about what I do in that. So I won't go into too much detail. I'll just sort of let you know what I do. But in that video, I sort of go through the process and why I do it that way. So these are like Jenga blocks, like a tower game. Again, you can, it's linked in the description of my videos to the ones that I use. But the Jenga game itself now is pretty cheap. I think you can get like a tower for less than £10, and you get about 40 of these, and you can get them in different sizes, but the general size is really good. So yes, that's just the Jenga block. So you don't need to cut anything up; they're just perfect sized. And if I think it was a couple of weeks ago where I did like a sub-assembly stream, so you might want to go watch that live stream where we take Tor Garden and we create sub-assemblies within. So this is one of the pieces that we got ready on the stream, and I'm using bits of sprue, and they're just super glued where I know that you're not going to be able to see it, or you can use blue tack. But again, the whole process is you can watch in that video, or you go watch that live stream and you can spend 2 hours listening to me talking about it and watch me as I do it. But thank you. I'm really glad you're enjoying the content. Alpha starter box also contains a rule book. Yeah, the starter boxes they don't have the full rule book, but they have a guide and like a gaming mat to help you get started. But you can get all the you can get the rules online for free anyway. Nathan, I got the starter set and it's been great. Use the half you don't collect to practice. Yeah, you can do that as well. Ryan, when you started, you say you got the magazine. Yeah, I recommend starting with the magazine just to try it out before you sort of invest nearly £100. Whereas the magazine's about £12, and the magazine's really good because it sort of talks about the hobby as well. Ballistic, any idea how long until the resin? Oh, I've read that, sorry. Dalfa, I've been subscribed a while, first time in a live stream though. I'm glad you're able to make a live stream, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Am I making these third company? Yeah, so these the red shoulder trims. Any chapter I usually do red shoulder trim. So if the Ultramarines weren't painted in a video, I'd give them red shoulder trims as well, because I've always just done third company Marines because I like the red trims. Nathan, I have some transfers, but none of the gear except water. What's the bare minimum I need to give it a rough try? Honestly, you can just do it with water. And they'll be just fine. And then later on, you can get something like a decal softener, say like this. So this is microset. And this costs about £5, but it'll last about 5 to 6 years. This is the first and only bottle I've ever bought, and I've still got just less than half a bottle left. And I've had this about 3 or 4 years already. But it's this that makes the difference for transfers, and it helps the transfers sit on the awkward surfaces. So this is what you can end up with. And if you really want to do transfers, you'll tend to need a gloss varnish and a matte varnish. But again, you can use any matte varnish or gloss varnish. Just check these. So the first thing we've done is just apply gloss varnish. I'm just making sure this is dry. So that's dry now. It doesn't take too long to dry, especially if you thin the varnish down. So I'll just have to reapply these. Then we'll just get all this out of the way. Don't want to move my chair. You can use tweezers for this if you want. I'll get to some more questions in a sec. I just want to get started on these guys. You can pre-cut the transfer if you want to, but I usually wait until it's on the shoulder pad. So just place it roughly where you want it. Obviously that's not going to sit too well. You can see how it's sort of like wrinkled up because it but you're going to get that just because of the shape of the transfer. One of the things I've learned is to turn the shoulder pad upside down. And if you've got a pair of tweezers, you can sort of manipulate and move it around. Get these brushes out of the way. Here I've just got my craft knife. Just because it makes it easy to move around. So obviously if you perspective on the shoulder pad, so you just spend time sort of pushing it in place. These transfers, the new sort of style transfers you get from Games Workshop are really good, and the glue works quite fast. Something I didn't actually do before I put this transfer down is put a little bit of water down, which I should have done. Just to help it sort of move around, because it is gonna stick. Now that transfer's split, but that's not bad because we were going to cut it anyway, and I think it's just because I was using a craft knife. But what you can do now it's on here, if it's not sitting well, you can sort of make a little cut. So if you just rock the craft knife on the edge, you don't want to go too far because that's when the transfer can sort of break apart quite easily. So you just need to, so it's up to you how much you want to do, but if you do a few little ones, it'll just help sit the pad on, the transfer onto the pad. And you can't ever have really too much water, because I'll show you what we can do. So again, just spend some time making sure the transfer's in place. Again, it does help if you have the water there. And I'll say, the danger of pre-cutting the transfer on the backing sheet before you apply it is you can damage it even more before it gets to the shoulder pad. Whereas if you leave it until you get to the shoulder pad, obviously there's less chance of it sort of breaking. It's not it as I say, it only split there because I'd gone with my craft knife while I was moving around and I wasn't careful. But if you, again, when you're making little cuts in the transfer and it's on there, don't like stab it, just rock it, because these, you cut these easily, they're like easily cut. So just sort of do a little rock, if you know what I mean. And then when you've had it sort of, so let's say it's not sitting, it sort of goes over itself and it sits better on the surface. So now that's sitting pretty well now. It's not perfect, but it's better than it would have been if we hadn't made those little cuts. Yeah, you still, if like at this, you would always need to make little cuts, because it would take a lot of work for the microsol or the microset to sort of make the transfer sort of that floppy. And then again, you can just sort of check it. It's sitting nicely on the pad. It is. So what you want to do now, this step isn't necessarily, but you can sort of take a small piece of paper towel and just sort of dab it, just to get rid of any excess water, just to give the chance for the glue to sort of do its thing and for it to stick in place. But again, you don't need to like rub it or anything like that. You literally just tap it, and that's enough to get rid of that bit of excess water. And that just means it'll dry quicker and it'll set in place quicker. And to be honest with you, if you're really brand new, you can, even if you didn't put that gloss varnish down first, you could just do what I've done there, make the little cuts and sort of dab away the water, and that'll be fine. It's not going to be perfect, you'll obviously see the difference, but it's a good start. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and do the rest of these while that dries. McDogs, hello, welcome to the stream. Eric, toothpicks and blue tack are great for unassembled minis. I'm going to give the Jenga blocks a try. Yeah, it's a game changer. Stephen, thank you. Yeah, you can leave a like on the stream, guys. And you can also leave a comment. That will really, I really appreciate, really help. Thanks. Ballistic, can you do the cut so it doesn't fold before putting it on the pad? What you could just sort of grab whatever transfer and you could sort of slide it onto the miniature as it's on the desk if you want. But these decals or the transfers are small enough that they don't, and if you sort of lay it on the brush in a way where most of it's supported, it should be fine. But obviously the less time traveling from the sheet to the miniature usually helps. Quangle Dratched, sorry if I've said that wrong. Can you give me a quick guide how transfers work? Do I just apply them with water and they're good? Yeah, as I say, you can do it that way. Here I've just sort of used water I have applied a gloss varnish first, but you don't necessarily have to do that. The gloss varnish just helps it sit against the pad better, and actually also helps protect the paint from the softening solutions, which isn't 100% necessary, but it's just a precaution. But you can just get away with just using water, especially for the new style transfers. So this is just water and it's fine enough, but you will need to leave it to dry for a couple of minutes. But yeah, and I do recommend doing the little cuts tab. You want it in place as much as possible before using any kind of solution. The easier we make it, the better. So we'll do another one just to quickly show you. So I'm not doing any cuts. So many bits and products everywhere. There we go, that should help that cinder. I may not look very organised. I am usually better organised than this. It's just that I'm obviously live streaming at the same time. And then if it isn't moving around, you can just add more water to reactivate it. It's not a problem. There you go. So I've just got it on the brush. And then spend time positioning it. I'm trying to keep everything in focus. So that's roughly sort of in place. And it is wrinkled and it's not sitting perfectly. So that's when we come in to make the little cuts. I'd usually do about 3. Usually a good number. And I wouldn't go far into the actual transfer. You just want to sort of nick the edge. And that's enough. And then just sort of flatten it with your brush. And that just sort of helps it sit on the pad a bit better. Again, because it's still quite wet, you should be able to move the transfer around still. And Eric mentioned a toothpick. A toothpick's actually quite good. A toothpick's a good idea for this bit as well, rather than using a craft knife. If it does, you can wet it. And that water should go under the transfer as well. There we go. So it moves around now. So again, if you find it hard to move, just add more water. And then with those cuts as well, you should be able to find it easy to sort of get into a position that you want it. And when you're happy with the positioning, paper towel, just dab in. You don't need to rub it, you just need to sort of dab just to pick up excess water, and this is going to help it dry. We'll just work on these two. So what I'll do is I'll do the other side as well. So we can do like a double transfer. These ones, so the shape of these, you shouldn't need to cut them because it's obviously a triangle, so it should sit on the pad. Again, I didn't add water, but to make sure you got a bit of water on the pad. And try not, obviously, you can sort of get distracted and end up knocking that transfer out while working on this, so just be mindful of that as well. Again, I didn't have to cut that one just because of the shape. Just check it from different angles. That's in place. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Emperor's Children. I'm definitely considering getting the box. But if I don't get the box, I'll definitely get some on general release. But just be aware I won't have a tutorial out straight away. Just because I don't get stuff from Games Workshop, unfortunately. If anyone wants to tell me how I'll get set up with Games Workshop, let me know, because I've tried emailing. But no one ever responds. So these are going to have a number over, but you want to get these set in place first. So otherwise it'll just be a nightmare trying to put this on and then the number after. So even if you weren't using any setting solution, just make sure your first transfer is set in place. That'll do. So just leave those to dry. So we've got transfer that side and that side. And obviously if you don't have any setting solution, you can just do that. And they should be fine. Just don't touch them for like a day, just to make sure they fully dry. Yeah. I still have issues with transfers as well. It just takes a bit of practice. But it's just about knowing what to expect and not getting too frustrated with it. Is there a good way to remove a transfer after it's dried and varnished, or do you have to strip the lot? If you've done a thin layer of varnish, you're probably just looking at scraping it, but lightly. But it's tough. You might just want to paint that area again if you didn't want to repaint the whole miniature. So again, microset. So this is a setting solution, but this will soften the transfers as well. Obviously, just don't knock it over like I do. Yeah, Stephen, I saw people have been saying the Gloomspike Gits box is on pre-order. Can someone tell me what's in the box? Is it an army box? Yeah, so the videos I'm working at the minute, I'm working on the Stormcast video at the minute. I'll do a Patreon and channel member update in the morning. I just didn't get. I wanted to do it before the stream, but I just didn't get a chance to. So I've kind of been working on both sides at the same time, especially at the beginning. So the Skaven side are all built and undercoated. And then I'm just finishing up the base colours for the Stormcast. It is a beginner video, so it's basically just going to be some dry brushes and washes. So the Stormcast video I'm hoping will be out next Sunday, and then the Skaven will be out 2 weeks after that. A wolf leader, 6 wolf boys, 2 chariots, and a codex. Oh, do you not get the Doom Diver? It doesn't seem like you get a lot in there. And is it like 3 wolf boys and a unit, or is it 3 lots of 2? I suppose you get 2 chariots. I don't know if I'm going to stick to these bases for the Imperial Fists. I don't know if I'm still liking them. So I'm pretty confident these are dry now. So I think we're ready for some of this. Just be careful. The transfer might move after doing this, but I just sort of dab it. I don't go crazy, just dab over it. And just make sure you go a little bit over the transfer as well. So hopefully it sort of works its way into the transfer. Now, if you ask any sort of scale modeler or micro scale themselves and make the product, they'll say apply this before putting the transfer on. But the problem with that, you can't move the transfer around because it gets glued in place pretty quickly. So I just apply this after it's been moved in place. And you don't need a lot of this to start with. It shouldn't move around because the glue for the transfer should have dried by now. But you do want a good covering. You don't want to be too shy with it. Manos, what made me do them green? So they're like a retro style. So back in 2nd edition or back in the 90s, you'll see that most bases were done like this with a green rim and like static grass. And my style at the minute just lends itself to sort of a more retro style, sort of a vibrant style. So I just feel like the base helps tie it all in. But obviously these will still work with a different base, so I might try a couple of different bases. So I'm just thinking what the whole army is going to look like. It'll definitely stand out if I take it to like an event. Because I'm thinking that I might be doing these Imperial Fists as a army on parade, because I've already got an idea for the board or the base that I'll do for them. So you really got to let that solution work. Probably about 10 minutes. Games Workshop stopped doing real sand or £7 sand grey pots for yellow. I'll get sand off beaches when I'm gone. Yeah, so Games Workshop, they don't do the gravel anymore, just because they've obviously got the textured product that you spread on the base. But you can get so I won't get it out. So for me personally, I go to Geek Gaming Scenics, and they've got a lot of great products for doing bases, and I get different kinds of sands and gravel and stuff. But you can also get bird sand. I know the heavy metal team and the studio use bird sand because it's got a nice sort of varied texture to it. Yeah, you can use all sorts of different textures, but yeah, as I say, Games Workshop don't really produce it just because they've got the textured paint now. They still do like the shrubs and stuff. I do like the product they brought out a couple of weeks ago with all the different accessories for your bases, so I might pick up some of that. Like the different skulls and the helmets and stuff. I think they really add character to your bases. Here's one of the things for my Imperial Fist army. So I haven't done a lot for it now. I've probably been working on it for about 4 weeks. So I've done 5 Infernus Marines, and they're done in the same style as the Kill Team video that I did recently. So I've got 5 Terminators, and I've finished all the base colours on them. So they're just ready for highlights now. And honestly, they've been really quick to do. I just haven't had time to work on them as much as I wanted to. Hal Haggis says they've used cat litter for bases before. Clean stuff, of course. I would have thought cat litter's quite chunky. I know a lot of people do like cork bases as well, and you can get little bits of slate to add interest on the base as well. I always toy with doing a specific tutorial for bases. I just don't like doing bases. I don't think I'm very good at them either, to be honest. I've got a couple of shorts on the channel. If you want to go check those out, there's like a sci-fi base. There's a base like this. And then there's the more sort of Games Workshop style brown base with some tufts of grass. I've noticed all my shorts have been getting out quite a bit. I think one of my shorts reached 75,000 views recently. And that was a transfer short for when I did my Terminators. So, I haven't had a chance to make many shorts recently, but I'm definitely going to be back on it next weekend. I really want that Gloom Spike Gits box. I just haven't got time to do. I haven't got time to paint them. So the projects I'm working on, I've got the these Imperial Fists. I've got loads of Tyranids I want to do. This is on top of the videos I'm making. I really want to finish my Cruel Boy army as well now. I don't mind doing a Stormcast army because they're going to be quite quick to do. I've still got my Warriors of Chaos army to paint up. So I got the Vanguard box for Age of Sigmar, and I put them on square bases and got them ready for Old World. I just need to get them painted, but that might be a video after I've done these AOS videos. I haven't decided yet. check these. Usually it's just by eye. Just to make sure, I usually just apply it, like if you see it's dried, I usually just apply it a second time just to be safe, just to be sure. And this is why the gloss varnishes helps, because it does protect the paint. Because if you keep applying it and working at it, I found that it can wipe away your highlights, definitely, and affect the colours that you're working over. So obviously if you're not using the solution, you don't necessarily have to do the gloss varnish. Empire made to order is next week too. Yeah, I want to do an Empire army. I also want to do a Skaven army for Old World as well. Oh, I've got a lot of projects and no time. What I really want is my own personal commission painter that I don't have to pay. Where I tell them how I want it painted and they just paint it for me. So I like the process of coming up with ways to paint stuff. It's just I haven't got time to then paint the stuff I want. That's kind of why I graduated to using a lot of contrast for my own personal stuff, just because it's a lot quicker. George Wright, thinking of doing some blood effects with UV resin for my Swarm Lord, but I'm a bit scared. What kind of blood effects are you talking about? Because sometimes you see the like the strings of gore and stuff on the teeth and around the claws. If that's what you're thinking of, I think people use Uhu glue or Uhu. Because I think UV resin's quite, I would imagine it's quite difficult to work with. But otherwise, I've got a little part of it. We got Blood for the Blood God, which is quite a good product. Yeah, a lot of people with something like that, they do use Uhu glue, because you can sort of put it on one part and sort of string it out. So I don't think UV resin will work like that. And if you wanted like pools of it, you could probably just do PVA glue, to be honest, and mix in some blood effect product. Manos, I use clear gloss nail varnish to apply my and leave it for around 30 seconds to a minute before you put the transfer. Yeah, so nail varnish, any kind of gloss is good before you put the transfer on. Just as I was saying before, just because it creates a really flat surface. So gloss varnish is really flat. A satin varnish, well, a matte varnish has texture to it, so it's bumpy. And that's how it creates the finish, because of how the light interacts with that surface. And that's why gloss varnish is good, because it's got a completely flat surface to sit on. Yeah, but I can imagine gloss nail varnish would work. You just have to be careful with that stuff, just because of the chemicals it's used. It might affect the paint. So this is just water-based acrylic gloss varnish, and thinned down with water, because it doesn't need to be a thick layer. It just needs to sort of act as a filler. So once you think your solution is done, you want to get a wet cotton bud. So I'll just dip it in some water and just get rid of all the excess, so it's just damp. And then you want to roll it. You don't want to smudge it or press down. You just want to connect it on the surface and then just roll it. You don't rub it. Just do it lightly to start with until you're confident that the transfer isn't going to move. Then you can slowly apply more pressure. And what this is going to do, this should sort of pick up any sort of extra residue as well that's still sitting on there. And then again, I'll just leave that just for another minute as you've started to sort of press it down. You're just sort of helping it at this point. It is quite a lengthy process, but it really, like, transfers look so good and it really adds to the miniatures. And I prefer transfers to a molded pad as well. Because good transfers do impress people. So I'm just going to leave those for another minute just to sort of continue sort of softening up. But now we've sort of helped press it down a little bit more. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask. There's no silly questions. Well, there is, but I just won't answer those ones. If anyone's interested in supporting TableTopReady, you can become a channel member on YouTube, or you can subscribe to the Patreon. Both will give you access to Discord. You'll get progress. You'll see like what I'm working on, and I'll sort of upload progress pictures. I was going to show the progress of what I've done on the Stormcast today. I just haven't had time, so I'm going to do it in the morning, first thing. And you'll tend to get tutorials 2 or 3 days early before you see them on YouTube. And obviously it's just a sort of avenue to sort of get hold of me and ask me questions and stuff. But that money does help the channel. It helps sort of get the paints and miniatures and brushes and pays for the licenses and software that I use for the channel. As well, you'll see I use like tabletop paint water. I've got, so I've just got like a little sort of print on demand store. And you'll see like the overlays sort of showing off some of the things, and there's like t-shirts and stuff. They're all really good quality as well. I'm really impressed. I've tried using print on demand stuff before, but every time I've got samples of them, they've been really bad quality. But the company I use now are quite good. I mean, they're slowly being their products. They're slowly making it available to ship around the world. But they do ship around the world now, but some places it can cost a bit more money for some products, because if you're in the UK, they might have to ship from America, for example, but they're making it so the products are sort of available at the same price around the world. I haven't decided if there's going to be a live stream next week. There might be. If there is, it'll probably be on a Saturday. Just because I want the Stormcast video to come out on the Sunday. So, again, I'm just making sure the cotton bud's moist or wet. And this time we're just going to go in with a little bit more pressure. And at this point you can sort of press down at the end. Again, not too much. You still don't want to rub, you just want to press it down. And this should get rid of some of those final wrinkles. Because they're actually set quite nicely in place now. And you'll notice I've only used the setting solution. I've not actually needed to use the microsol. I would only come in with a microsol if I found like the transfers weren't sitting as flat as I wanted them to, if there was still a couple of wrinkles in there, as a last measure. But the setting solution has been enough. And it's at this stage as well where we can double up on the transfers. Now we're confident that this is not going to move around too much. So just react. I'm just sort of getting the numbers ready. What's everyone working on while they watch me do this? Everyone's very quiet. I'm worried that everyone's not actually here. Am I not getting... Don't mind my head, I'm just... Hang on, my chat isn't updating. Oh, there we go. Sorry, the chat wasn't updating. For some reason, that was like, why is everyone quiet? Stephen says, is there any distinction between Lamy Medium and matte varnish? Yeah, so Lamy Medium isn't a varnish. Lamy Medium's just basically paint without the water. The reason I use it in the video is because in the past, Lamy Medium wasn't as glossy as it is now. Because it's got a weird finish now. But you would use Lamy Medium because it gave the same finish as the paint would. Because that's the medium the pigment's in. But now I just use a matte varnish just because it's a better, it doesn't have as a glossy finish as Lamy Medium seems to have now. Yeah, I don't know why the chat wasn't updating. I don't know what the S-Speed, Velocity, and Laden Swallow is. Heal yourself, yo. John Lockyer, any tips on recess shading power armor? Washing the whole mini doesn't appeal anymore with having to re-establish the base color. Welcome to the world of recessing. I'll see if I've got an example. Really, recess shading's it's really easy. You can either use a shade or a paint. I tend to prefer a paint because you get more definition, because a shade is obviously quite transparent. So you would have to go in there a couple of times. Bobo, thank you very much for subscribing. I didn't catch you earlier. So that's in place now. We're just going to let that dry. And once I'm confident the water's dried on that, we'll just put a bit more of the setting solution on there. But because like that's obviously, it doesn't really need a lot of work because it's small and flat anyway. Yeah, with the recess shading, it's literally, you don't have to thin your paint any more than you normally would. It is preference, you can if you want. But it's basically just going in with like whatever size brush, like a small brush or something like that, and just literally painting into the recesses. And you don't even need to be neat, because once you're done, you can just go in with your base colour and just neaten things up. Which isn't a lot of work, to be honest. And I definitely prefer recess shading over doing an overall wash, especially for armour or flat, like industrial type details. Because as you say, you lose that vibrance, and you don't necessarily want to have to go in and reapply your base colour after you're doing the overall wash. This is where we are at the minute. So there's two styles of numbers. You can get like the Roman numerals, or you can get the actual Arabic sort of numbers. Or Aramaic, I'm not sure the actual word you would use for our style of numbers. And that's had the setting solution on, and that's worked really well, and that's sat really nicely against the shoulder pad. So after that, all the setting solution dried, we were confident enough that we can just put another transfer over a transfer. Healy South, how's it going? It's going really well. We're just doing some transfers. Nicky Bones is working on a Wolfguard Terminator. I really hope Space Wolves do get a kind of a release this year. They definitely need it. And my tutorial really needs an update. And I love the Space Wolves. Space Wolves are one of my favourite chapters. Chris is working on Sternguard Veterans. John Locker, 9th edition Blood Angels Combat Patrol. That's a good combat patrol. Hilly South is at work, but Sanguinius 30k model when they're home. I would love to get all the Horus Heresy Primarchs. Especially like the new sort of Ascended Primarchs, like the Horus Ascended and Fulgrim Ascended. Blistic, I'm about to spray some primer on some models and a base coat. Did a Chosen Space Marine, but I want to redo it. Good luck. Priming and undercoating. Like, I always am very apprehensive about priming and undercoating, because I don't always get it right, and it can make or break a miniature. Clever Kitsune, Krieg following your tutorial. Oh, fantastic. Have you got the new box? Web sticking transfers to my Redemptor Dreadnought. Oh, good. Hopefully this is helping. Nathan, Leapers, every model is getting better. Thanks for boosting my confidence. I'm glad. So yeah, you said you were working on the Tyranid Leapers earlier. Wooter just finished Draxus and her bodyguard unit of Shadow Keepers that are painted in a purple scheme. Very nice. Is my audio a bit choppy? To be fair, my audio is probably choppy because I keep moving about. I'm very fidgety, so I do try and keep it close by. But yeah, it's probably me. But hopefully it gets better. Hilly South, if Space Wolves get a release, my dad will freak out. Yeah, I think there's a few rumours along with the Grey Knights. Grey Knights I definitely want an update on. Brian Scale Model World Space Wolves were my first combat patrol. Yeah, I did when I first started. I attempted doing Space Wolves to start with. I got put off doing Space Wolves very quickly because I couldn't paint the yellow shoulder pads. So I gave up and I did a Chaos Army, I did Black Legion. Josh Stone. My accent is weird. Josh Stone, your Orc Boy vid is what got me the confidence to actually paint my first ever mini. Been almost a year and I've been pushing my painting with every model. I'm really glad. I know a lot of people say they're really apprehensive and really scared to start painting miniatures, but really, you have to get over that. It's like you just need to just understand it's okay to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. And when we can't be absolutely perfect to start with, there's always going to be learning. Like obviously some people pick it up quicker than others, but everybody is capable of reaching even the level that I paint to. I didn't even think I could reach the level that I paint to, and I managed it. And now I'm showing you guys how to do it, so you'll do it quicker than me. Yeah, I always say to people, try not to repaint things, because I went through that phase where I would strip models, and I wish I didn't. I wished I'd just left them as they were and then just worked on the next miniature. I think that's a better way to go about it, because you can get really you never end up finishing miniatures, because you get halfway through painting something and you go, I can do better than that, I'll strip it, and then you just end up stripping and stripping, and then you're just like, no, look, I'm finished. Just like the goal should be to finish miniatures. No matter how good you think they are, just get to the stage where you finish that miniature, because you're going to learn more from that than only painting a bit of it and then starting again. Clever, I pre-ordered the new box, but it hasn't arrived yet. I'm painting the kill team. Yeah, it's really tough. You can't really see the kill team box on the website. Well, for when I tried to see if it was still available. The new boxes should have been coming out this weekend, shouldn't they? If it went up for pre-order a couple of weeks ago. So you probably get it tomorrow, maybe. If anyone, like a trick, if anyone wants the army boxes and they're worried that they're going to go quickly out of stock, like the Emperor's Children box, for example, if you go to a Warhammer store, they don't worry about that queuing system on the website. So if you go into a Warhammer store, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll get a box, because they always end up opening like 10 minutes early as well. So you're there ordering as the website goes live, because they have a different system in the store for when they order stuff, so they don't have to go through the queuing system, because that's what I do. But obviously if you've got independent stockists, they do a lot of pre-orders, but that's something you'll have to talk to those about. Nicky Bones, I heard summertime for my Wolf Boys. I hope so. I'm wondering if the Grey Knights will come first. Stephen, the silhouette teaser at the Warhammer reveal was a space wolf with a knife. I've not seen that. You'll have to put a picture in the Discord for me. I've heard people talking about this roadmap. I've not seen it. Josh Stone, you won't repaint the first boys. I love seeing how far you've come. Yeah, I wouldn't. Make sure you keep them. And he said you're already doing tons of tiny checkerboards, glazing and non-metallic metal. Fantastic. Yeah, if you're new as well, don't be scared to try these techniques out. Because you're only going to get better at those as well, like in a year, as you say. Whereas if you waited a year to do them, you've then got to learn that whole thing. Here we South, I've got to drive now. Have a great one. Safe drive. Get home safe. Angelo, hi, greetings from Spain. I was afraid of painting my first mini, but you began because of a video. So I'm getting a bit tired. It's not your... Hi, greetings from Spain. I was afraid of painting my first mini, but I began to because of a video of you painting Adeptus Sororitas. It's not you. I'm losing consciousness. Rusey, hello my friend. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, the sisters tutorial is really quite a popular one. It still gets a lot of views. Because the Sisters of Battle are quite an intimidating range to paint. Actually, I'm really tempted to revisit a Sisters tutorial as well. Maybe doing like 3 ways to paint your sisters, like a basic way, a contrast way as well. Yeah, Ryan, and you say you paint a lot of the historical miniatures as well. I love seeing them. Charles Hodgson, currently edge highlighting Imperial Fist and Furnace undersuit. Least favourite part. I'm a few months into the hobby and your channel has helped me loads, so thank you. I'm really glad. Yeah, painting the ridges can be tough. But again, if your highlights aren't perfect, you can neaten them up. And it's pretty much just like doing a recess shade. Just get some Abaddon Black and just pull it into those recesses. Because that also helps actually, because you can actually make your lines too thick on the ridges. So if you do like a black recess shade in those ridges, it'll knock back those highlights as well. My cat's meowing. I'm just gonna be 1 second. This is Millie. He's grumpy. John Stone, also getting a good quality brush and a wet palette with the biggest impact hobby investments from me. Yeah, I never used to use a wet palette until about 5 years ago, when I was really sort of looking to improve my painting, and it really was a game changer, because the wet palette, what it did for me was, because when you use a dry palette, the water obviously evaporates really quickly, so you're having to constantly thin your paints all the time, and it's sort of very distracting. So using a wet palette just means you can sort of focus on painting, and you've always kind of got a good flow of paint because it's thinned enough. Thank you, Stephen. I'll have a look at the Discord after the live stream. And yeah, and the wet palette I use is obviously linked in the descriptions as well. So these should be dry now, so I'm just going to put a little bit over that 3. just to help it set in place. Just leave that for like a minute. And then there you go. So you don't even need a lot of this solution. That's why it lasts so long. And again, I do have both. I've got this setting solution and the microsol. So the microsol is a stronger softener, but the microset softens the transfer as well. And I've actually only used microset this evening. But again, if you do have tough transfers where you find it isn't quite sort of soft, it's not softening enough to sort of sit on the pad, you can go in there with a bit of microsol. But remember, this is really strong. So that's just sort of like a backup. Especially if you've got big transfers on vehicles, you might want to use microsol. But the little transfers like this, the microset should be enough. Yeah, Ryan, show some of the stuff in the Discord. I'd like to see it. Rooster, you look tired or sick tonight? Yeah, just it's 7:30. I've been painting all day, so my eyes are quite tired because they've been under a light. So I've been working on Stormcast today, and I'm quite an early riser in the morning as well. So I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock. So this is where I sort of start to wind down just naturally. Eric, I just bought a wet palette yesterday. Yeah, they're really good. The ones I used to make my own. And the videos that the next couple of videos I'm doing with the Stormcast and Skaven, I'll show you how to make a wet palette in those. Just because I feel like even as a beginner, they're really good to have. I will be back. So, in the videos that are coming out, by the next couple of videos that are coming out, this is the wet palette I'll show you people how to make. And I literally got everything for this wet palette at a shop down the road. Like, you can get, this is just like a plastic takeaway tub. So obviously if you have takeaways, you'll tend to get these anyway, but I literally found these in a shop down the road from me. It's paper towel and baking paper. Because one of the things you can do as well to make a dry palette is just put some baking paper on the lid. So I know people like use like plates and tiles and stuff like that, but you've got the baking paper already, so you can just blue tack it to the lid. So you've got a wet palette and a dry palette all ready to go. And I'll show you how to sort of make this in my next two videos for beginners. Because you don't need, so even as a beginner, it's good to have. But I upgraded and bought one just because I use a wet palette all the time. And again, it's only like a £6 wet palette. Hamp, hello again, my friend. Quick question: in your tutorials, how long do you let each coat dry before going forward to the next step? If you're talking about paint layers, they're quite quick to dry, to be fair. As long as they're dry to the touch, that's it's good to go with another layer. So even if you like, say, paint 5 minutes at a time, by the time you've done all 5, you'll be able to go back to the first. Which shouldn't be a problem. So these should be fine now. So I'll just roll just to make sure it's set in place. So that's fine there. And then this one. Again, it's just the micro set I've used. So now what I'll do is I'll get a new cotton bud. Again, just wet it and get rid of a lot of the moisture, just to clean the residue or any chemical. So this is where you can rub it, so it should be in place now. And just sort of clean the surface. Again, you don't need to like rub too hard, just gently. Because then after this, all we need to do is just apply the matte varnish. So just use that for an example. You should see the difference between the finished surface. So that's going to be a glossy surface. So you want to matte it down. So obviously that surface doesn't match the rest of the miniature. So that's why we come in with a matte varnish, which is also going to protect that transfer. So any matte varnish will do. I've just got part of the Storm Shield from Games Workshop from Citadel. Just because they're the products I use. I just like to be consistent. Again, I'll thin this down with 50% with water. And then just apply it to the whole area. Eric, wet pallets are great. Buying an actual wet pallet will save you money on paint because it won't dry up as fast. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the wet pallet. And it's great for mixing paints as well and glazing. Thinking what I'll do for the next stream, what we can do, because one of the things we actually haven't talked about is basing, so maybe I'll come up with something for that. Maybe do like a Games Workshop, a couple of, because obviously I've got the shorts, so I might do a couple of bases and show you how I do those. Maybe work on doing a couple of different styles of base. Hal Haggis, I made my own wet palette from an old Tupperware tub. Works great. Yeah, it doesn't need to be fancy. I know when you talk about wet palettes, people start telling you, oh, you should buy a £30 wet palette from Army Painter or from this company. And then they end up being like the size of your desk. You know, that's just crazy. That's crazy. Stephen, I would love a Geek Gaming Scenic sponsorship. I don't know if they do them. I know Green Stuff World do an affiliate scheme, which I might do. But I would prefer Geek Gaming Scenics. I know they used to have their own YouTube channel. Maybe I'll email them. But I'll do a sponsored video. Yeah, we can have a look at the different Games Workshop textured paints. Because I don't have a basin video, so that was an idea I had for a video, was looking at the different textures. But again, I'm not brilliant at bases. So one of the last things I do in my transfer video is give the varnish a buff. Just because, as I was saying earlier, varnish has different textures and how light applies to it. So if you buff it, it creates more texture, giving it more of a matte finish. And it does help with the lamy medium. Just to sort of matte it down and get rid of that glossiness. The idea really is just to sort of do the buffing just before it completely dries. You don't need to do a lot. It just sort of gives it texture and it helps it blend into the rest of the miniature more. I'm just using like a large dry brush. We can use any brush really. Again, the amount of time it's taken me to do these is not... It won't take as long. It's obviously because we've been on stream. So there's a finished transfer, and that's pretty flat. That would have been annoying if the transfer came off then. That has happened where I think it's all finished. I've touched it and it's peeled off. So that's probably not completely dried, so I wouldn't mess with it too much now. Just let that dry for maybe a day. So there's your transfer. The idea is to make transfers not look like transfers. Because one of the things the softening solution does is get rid of that film that you get covering the transfer. And it's at this stage as well, now you've put the matte varnish on, where you can go in and add your like chips and stuff if you want to weather them. Obviously it's going to be difficult to use contrast paints to weather them, but you could go in here with like flash gitch yellow, something that'll match your contrast paint if you're using contrast paints. I think like here's an ultramarine one that this is from the video. I don't think I did any battle damage for these. See, this was when I did these transfers, I did it using lamy medium. But the problem with lamy medium is it doesn't get rid of that gloss completely. So you can still see it's quite a glossy surface. So that's why, so after this actually that I then started to use matte varnish to finish it off. And it's definitely noticeable on the knee pad where it's still quite glossy. It's not really noticeable, it's just noticeable when I point it out. So you can see those streaks. So that's why I just sort of moved to using the hard coat. So I don't get that issue anymore. There you go. It's these Terminators I did some battle damage on. So you can see, like, I've just gone in with some Macragge blue and just put some chips just to break up the outline. You don't need to do loads. So yeah, so I like transfers because they really sort of really add character to a miniature. So obviously you got them without. So hopefully I've explained transfers a bit more in depth so people can understand. Ryan, you should do a video creating bases, like different schemes to Citadel texture pots. And I agree. So that might be something I do later in the year, maybe towards the end of the year. Josh Stone, there's other technical Citadel paints than just the base ones, would still be a good vid. Yeah, so you get like crackle effects and earth effects and stuff. Again, I've got to refresh the chat because it's not updating. Okay, I think that's everything with the bases. I'm really happy with those. Yeah, they've definitely come out really nice. I know you can't really see them, but hopefully just me sort of talking about the process can help. So hopefully you've learned something. And again, you don't need to be scared of doing transfers, especially as a beginner. And you don't need to use a setting solution. The transfers go down really well now, even with just water. They're not going to be perfect, and they'll look like transfers, but the fact that you've made an attempt is enough. So I think we'll call it there. Another 2.5 hour stream. I think it's been really good. Thank you everyone for joining me. Again, thank you for those who've given super chats. It's really appreciated. What I'm going to start doing, anyone who's left a super chat now, if I can find a way to go back and get your name, I'm going to try and give you shout outs and videos from now on, because you're obviously donating to the channel, but I need to make sure I can go back and grab people's names, which I should be able to do, but I'll figure it out. So thank you again everyone. Next weekend should be the beginner Stormcast video, and hopefully I'll be live streaming on the Saturday. I'm 50-50 at the minute if I'm going to be live streaming on the Saturday, because I don't know how much I've got some things to do, but at the moment I do want to. I've been looking forward to doing the live stream tonight, to be fair. So it's probably likely that I will, but I'll definitely let you all know beforehand. So thank you everyone for joining me. Hopefully you've all learned a bit more about transfers. Again, Stormcast video next week. Make sure if you ever watch my videos, please leave a like and a comment, and leave a like and a comment on this live stream as well. And if anyone has any questions they want me to answer in the live streams. If they can't make it, you're always more than welcome to leave comments in the comment sections of videos or email. So thank you again. I'm going to say goodbye. Look after yourselves and enjoy painting. Goodbye, everyone.